In international headlines, the family of American journalist Daniel Pearl plans to appeal a decision that freed the man convicted of beheading him. And recent violence in Afghanistan could delay plans to withdraw U.S. troops from the country. So joining us now to discuss these issues and more is foreign affairs analyst Daniel Markey, a senior research professor at Johns Hopkins University School of International Studies. He's also a senior fellow on the Council of Foreign Relations. Dr. Markey, thank you for joining us.
Happy to join you.
So last year, the Taliban entered into a peace deal with the U.S. that's now under review by the Biden administration. And I think the history and the context is important here. The Taliban being trained and armed by the CIA to fight off the Soviets in the 80s. The emergence of Osama bin Laden, of course, as a global terrorist figure. The U.S. occupation of Afghanistan that's lasted a generation. And now we're sitting down at the table with them even as this violence escalates. So can you briefly talk about how and why this decision was made and where you think it goes from here?
Yeah, this is a tough and, as you explained, a messy and long-standing set of historical challenges for the United States. And, you know, to make a long story short, the Trump administration, I think, came to the conclusion that ultimately it had to cut a deal with the Taliban and was eager to reduce and then ultimately withdraw U.S. forces from Afghanistan, recognizing that in some ways this is an unwinnable war. And now the Biden administration is stuck trying to make sense of an arrangement negotiated by the Trump administration, by their chief negotiator, Ambassador Zalmay Khalilzad, which basically stipulates that all U.S. forces should be out in May. And the question is whether this makes sense, given the fact that the Taliban are still fighting against other Afghan security forces, and the situation has hardly been resolved.
What do you see happening with the Biden administration?
Well, my sense is that the Biden administration, given some of their recent comments coming out of the Pentagon, they're looking for ways to kind of slow this down a bit. They've said that they want to review the negotiating process to get to the bottom of precisely what has been agreed with the Taliban, some of which was never made public. And they want to understand whether perhaps, I would imagine, perhaps maybe a 4 or 6 month delay of U.S. forces might ultimately bring about greater prospects for peace between the Taliban and the current government situated in Kabul.
So I want to talk to you about Mark Farrix. He was a contractor from Illinois. He was believed to have been abducted a year ago by the Taliban. His family and his supporters are asking the Biden administration not to do the troop withdrawal unless he's released. Do you think there's a possibility of that happening? And does that then set a precedent for negotiating with hostages?
Look, I think there are many different facets to this negotiation. Not only do we have, in this case, a hostage that was taken by a faction of the Taliban, but they also still have prisoners that we are holding that are held by the Afghan government. So a lot of the pieces of this negotiation still need to be sorted out. I think that the family is right to be concerned that if U.S. forces go to zero before he is negotiated out, it's going to be a lot harder to get him out of the country. So they're right to be quite concerned and worried about that. I don't think that the entire process, though, hinges on a single hostage. I think the Biden administration has a number of other things to think about first.
Yeah, and also I want to talk about Daniel Pearl, the journalist in Pakistan. The Supreme Court Thursday in that country ordering the release of the Islamist convicted of beheading him and killing him in 2002. Pakistan is also a key player when it comes to Afghanistan policy and going forward. Just to remind viewers, we also know bin Laden had been hiding out in Pakistan. It's a country that has a nuclear weapons program. So why the continued diplomatic ties with Pakistan, and will the court decision actually make a substantial difference in the relationship?
Well, first, why the continued diplomatic ties? Pakistan has been a central player in Afghanistan as well. And so the Trump administration had along the way, although they had been very frustrated with Pakistan at first, they had determined that Pakistan could play a helpful role in their negotiations with the Taliban, and so had seen fit to continue working with them. The news of this likely release or potential release of Omar Saeed Sheikh, the killer of Daniel Pearl, is a terrible look for Pakistan right out of the gate with the Biden administration. And I think we should remember this is the Biden administration with, the former vice president who remembers very well finding Osama bin Laden in Pakistan and the frustrations with Pakistan. So this recalls immediately, in the first week that the Biden administration is in office, some deep frustration and anger with Pakistan. It's not a good look for Islamabad.
Is it possible that we change our relationship with Pakistan going forward with our diplomatic ties?
Yeah, it's always possible, but remember, they are a central player in Afghanistan. So if there is any possibility of stability in Afghanistan, it's going to depend in part on what Pakistan does. And the story, of course, is even bigger than that. We have to think about Pakistan's relationship with India, where there's daily shelling across their shared international border. And we also, even beyond that, need to recognize that Pakistan's relations with China grow ever closer with each passing day. So this is a complicated, multi-layered story. I don't think that we can pull away from Pakistan, but we are right to be frustrated with them with this particular move.
Dr. Markey, thank you so much for breaking it down with us. It's a complicated international relationship here, and we appreciate you breaking it down for us tonight.
Yeah, it was great to join you.